So, hello, Trisha. Welcome to day number 1 of Quantum Time Travel Immersion. So, we are going to talk a lot about time. Our first session is actually about dismantling the myth of the linear time. So, we're going to unlearn in a way that the time is this straight line. And we're going to remember in a way through these teachings that time is not like a machine. It's more like a spell. And why it's like a spell, we are going to get to that point a bit later. So if we imagine with our closed eyes how we breathe and how our heart is kind of expanding and contracting, this is the first sign that the time is cyclical, never straight. Through our heartbeat, we can, as the first example, realize this, that through this rhythm, the line is non-existent. So this can be our first clue that life through our heartbeat was never ever linear. So we can also say shortly that the modern industrial society and also colonial expansions, patriarchal systems, kind of all of them, they sold us this lie of the clock. Punch in, punch out, birth, work, retire, die. So life got reduced in this way to deadlines and wages and calendars. And then if we compare this to our soul, which is immortal, we can say that the soul was always living in spirals, in seasons, in cycles. And this is the space that we are going to open today. And in service to the living cosmos, the Kausai Patra. So, Trisha, I invite you to drop down into a breath together with me. So try to sit relaxed. As it perfectly suits you. Just find that position which is relaxing to you, and let's move our awareness on our breath and on our heart space for a while. And as we inhale through the nose, we are drawing in this life force from the quantum field, allowing that air to touch and nourish our hearts. And as we hold our breath on the top, we allow ourselves to taste infinity. And as we exhale, we are releasing tension, and also we are releasing the linear trap. Now let's repeat this breath for a few more cycles, and imagine that with each exhale, you are blowing dust off a golden spiral within you. Let's call in the 4 directions. To the winds of the south, great serpent, shed the old timelines. And to the west, great jaguar, walk fearlessly into shadow memory. And to the north, sacred hummingbird, drink the nectar of past and future. And to the east, eagle, great condor, lift us into timeless wisdom. And above, the upper world of luminous guides. And below, Pachamama, the eternal ground. So now as we enter the field, we are outside the clock in timelessness, and let's begin. So the first part of our session, a lot of reading, reflecting, talking, and a few questions when we get to that. So we can start off like this. Most of us were born into this prison we couldn't see, and we can call this prison a prison of linear time. So we were taught first this and that then we are young, then we are old, then there's past, then there's future. And hidden inside of this story is control. So the conditioning of linear time, which is very deep. And this all started by the start of the industrial age. So the industrial time was invented to own human attention and labor. Before factory bells, farmers, they worked with the sun, with the seasons and the soil. Indigenous peoples, well, they moved with dream time, ceremonial cycles. They didn't have clocks. So then came this colonial machinery. The church bells became factory bells. The school bells prepared the children for wage labor. Minutes became currency. And then we could realize then that the linear time was serving the patriarchy because it was ripping life from the womb of eternity. And this is this very huge maternal force of creation. And in that way, we were always having this feeling that we were running out of time and that we should be obedient, that we should hurry, that we should be more productive, and that we should even fear the end. But you know, most humans, they know inside their bones and in their dreams, and also even through our breath, we know that time and ourselves and our soul, we are different. We feel this, most of us. So let's speak a little bit now about the language as a time spell. So every time we speak, we kind of are casting this grammar of time. When we say, I was, or I am, or I will be. So most of the languages are obsessed with past and future. And they're kind of trapping consciousness in before and after. So even when we were present, the mind was whispering, well, what is next? And let's remember when. It's a constant chatter in the mind around the time. So the Carol lineage, our lineage of fire shamans, and even many other indigenous languages, they often speak in cyclical metaphors, or we can say it like this living present tense. So the way of expression in this style is not binding the soul to this linear notion of time. And once we wake up to this knowingness, we realize that time is a psychological agreement. It's not a law. So when we touch dream time and inner time, we can then say that the notion of linear time disappears. But who is in touch with the dream time and the inner time? And this is, of course, the children and the mystics. They live in the dream time. So in this time, 10 minutes can feel like forever. A day can feel like a whole lifetime, for example. example. The inner world is kind of beginning to dictate peace then when we are living in this cyclical motion. So our nervous system really calms down because it's not feeling anymore that it's running out of time. So we can also have pauses for grief without thinking about time, just allowing to happen. We can expand in awe, or we can even this cyclical time, it really bends for love, and love is this universal notion of the glue, of that connects everything. So when we honor this, our life then becomes a spiral. And we can then revisit the lessons that life was giving us without punishment. And we can each and every time deepen the wisdom without hurrying ourselves. So the energy field of time, which is a very important subject. So beyond clocks, time feels like waves, spirals, and pulses of energy. So shamans, they see past and present and future as layers of this luminous field that we are inhabiting. Neuroscience, they hint at this through state-dependent memory and something called nonlinear perception in flow states. And the flow states, well, these happen when we are creative, when we are in our right domain, when we are really expressing our soul. And this really, in a way, makes us sense that time disappears, that we are a part of this spiral. So when we step into the field, we realize that we can even visit our inner child right now. We can meet our future selves in imagination. We can collapse loops that our ancestors kind of left open, unresolved. Ancestral wounds, pains, trauma, even curses sometimes. All of this can be cleared out. So this is the real magic of the time travel. We actually are not moving through time, but the time is moving through us and around us. So let's talk a little bit about walking the spiral of time. Once when we enter the spiral of time, we stop fearing that we are running out of time. And then synchronicities, they appear because our field becomes fluid together with the time. So our relationships with past and present and future, kind of all of them, they become our allies. And this makes us becoming a time weaver of a sorts, not a prisoner of time. So let's imagine now breathing in this golden spiral into our hearts and allow it to enter our space and to feel this softness and aliveness. Just a few breaths and imagining this golden spiral entering our field and touching our hearts. Let's affirm to ourselves that we are not late and that we are eternal. So, knowing this, we can look at the psychological stance of the cyclical time and the memory loops. And we're also going to touch our inner child, and also our future selves. This is a fun part. This part. We're going to have some questions as well. So if time is a spell which is cast over the world, then our psyche is the magician and the echo chamber. So most of the time travel we do every day is happening in our own mind without even us realizing it. So state-dependent memory and trauma time kind of makes us perceive that our brain is not this camera that records life accurately. It's really this living state-dependent system. And what we remember then in our minds is depending on how we feel right now. So this means that once when we recall an old story, we're kind of, every time we speak this story out loud, we are reframing it a little bit. We are either adding up to the story a little bit or retracting. So the story is always changing. And this is really confirming this statement, neuroscientific statement, that when we remember, it's all depending on how we are feeling right now when we recall a memory. So our memories are fluid as well, and how we express them when we remember them in our surroundings. So emotions, they kind of tag these energies, and they can also store memory in patterns. So we can then say if we felt fear as a child, certain sensations, sounds, or even faces may trigger some kind of fears decades later in our adult life. And at the very moment we feel fear, our nervous system kind of pulling up this matching memory file from our hard disk storage, our memory. So suddenly then we are there again, 5 years old, helpless or frozen. And this is trauma time. So our body thinks that the past is still happening now. And why is that so? Because by recalling a traumatic memory from our childhood, but we are actually releasing a cocktail of chemicals produced by our body, which really makes us relive the trauma that we are remembering. So it's all chemical at the very end, physical, chemical. So time is kind of folding on itself when we relive this traumatic experience from the childhood in this way, through our chemistry. And then we can say that we are kind of not reacting to reality, but we're kind of responsive to this echo of unresolved experience. And shamans, they call this a soul fragment. And this is a part of one of us that can be stuck in a moment or a trauma and never return to ourselves in our present bodies and experience, embodiment. So psychology calls this dissociation or arrested development. So in quantum time travel, we call this a loop, a piece of a spiral that hasn't completed. It's kind of like if you imagine a spiral, like a small piece of it is missing, and this is this soul fragment that we need to reinstall to kind of be whole again, and be able to feel the spiral of time. And this process in shamanic world is called soul retrieval. So the psyche will always repeat what is unresolved, because this is coming from our unconscious mind. And we remember that famous psychological expert Carl Jung, he said, well, until we make the unconscious conscious, it will always direct our lives, and we will call it fate. So our inner timeline is actually full of these unclosed circles. Then we can, for example, we can say a heartbreak that we experienced can be still bleeding into our choices today. A childhood wound that makes us not trust love. Maybe a betrayal that makes us replay defensiveness again and again. So every unresolved emotion kind of becoming a magnet for pulling similar experiences and situations into our life and our field. And this is the psyche's way of saying, will you notice me this time? Will you finally bring me home? And the beautiful thing about quantum time travel, that it does not move only forward, it descends inward and outward, and it's kind of embracing all these, well, let's call them forgotten parts of ourselves, which all are waiting in this spiral of time. So Trisha, now we reach a point where I got a few reflective questions, and I'd be super happy if you're willing to engage a little bit with me, communicate. So first question, where in your life have you unconsciously submitted to linear time, to deadlines, to aging clocks, or the illusion that you're running out of time? Is there any unconscious agreements within you which you can point at?
Just all the time with my calendar. um, when I consciously look at that calendar and tell myself that I don't have enough time to fit everything in. But really, that's just me constraining myself, because there's plenty of time if I don't put that external pressure on myself. Because really, if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. There's always another day. um, it's just that we've always been, it's always been drilled into us not to disappoint people, that it has to be done on a certain schedule. And that if you don't get things done, then someone's going to be disappointed, or that you're going to be a failure. Really, that's not true. The world's not going to come to an end if it doesn't get done. I mean, there are certain things that do need to be done in a timely fashion, but the world's not going to end if it doesn't get done. But you've just been told that it needs to be done, and that if you don't get it done, people are going to be disappointed in you, you know.
Absolutely, I agree with you, and this is why we can in a way now see why we can call this linear time a spell, because we are living in a way under this spell, that we are running out of time, that we need to hurry ourselves,
We become slaves.
where we in reality have a lot of time to manage everything. So thank you. I got another question now. If you were to measure your life by inner soul milestones instead of outer timelines, what would your timeline look like? Or are there any moments that mark your true becoming?
I mean, like, I didn't really start becoming like, I, again, I feel like I've wasted like most of my life. I didn't really start becoming who I really am until like my late 40s. I didn't really start on my path of who I really am because I spent my whole life just being who everybody else wanted me to be. I've been this
Mm,
community my whole life, just following what everybody else wanted me to do,
mm,
who being who everybody else expected me to be in all of my relationships, friends, family, um, loved ones, significant others, because I never really knew who I
mm.
was, never, knew what I
Yeah.
really. So because I was too busy just towing the line and doing what I was supposed to do and meeting time. Um,
Yeah, being under the spell of time. But it's
yeah.
beautiful that we see
Um,
in your story that you
yeah.
have marked, that you have felt a place
Yeah.
in your timeline, age 40, a little bit plus, where you felt that, well, I woke up. I'm not caught up anymore under the spell of others and time. So,
And that I'm, really being called and learning and growing and finding who I am and finding my true purpose and really grasping the whole concept of, what's important, what's not. And I still have so much to learn and I'm still learning more every single day. But the milestones are starting to come now and I'm starting to see more and understand about, cycles and all of it. So it really didn't start until late in life. And
thank you.
I still have the struggle of, wishing that it had happened so much earlier, but there were so many lessons that I was learning along the way to get me to where I am now.
Thank you for sharing. And ain't that beautiful, that we also can learn always, all of our lives, this learning curve. And also, as you mentioned, feeling these important milestones, like these level ups or upgrades that we really truly feel, that we can come to a point to say, wow, I understand this differently now than yesterday. And I really truly feel differently and more clear because of that. So that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing your heart.
You're welcome.
Uh, Now we are coming to a super interesting part. We are we're going to reactivate our inner child, and later on we are going to meet our future selves with this inner child. So let's use our imagination a little bit for this part. So let's imagine that we are walking into our own memory palace. Let's try to visualize this however you wish so. A beautiful construction, a memory palace. And let's say then that each room in that palace holds you from another time. The 4-year-old who wanted to dance but was ashamed. The 12-year-old who felt invisible at the dinner table. The 18-year-old who loved without boundaries and got crushed because of that. So when something in the present touches these old wounds, that inner child wakes up and we can feel it as, well, sudden overreaction, freezing even, or shutting down completely. So these emotional spirals, they can really seem irrational. But to the child within, and let's remember, children are living in the cyclical time as the mystics, it's perfectly logical. Because time is never ever linear inside the psyche. So the past is kind of always alive until it's felt in a proper, blessed way, and then reintegrated in a healthy way. So, with this inner child now present in our minds, in all these different editions, it's already present with us in this session. And let's just let that inner child rest and observe and play while we talk a little bit more about future self-psychology. So, just as our psyche can collapse past into present, it can also magnetize the future. And neuroscience is recognizing this, that as we imagine a future self, we are activating many of the same neural networks as the remembrance of the past. So this is saying to us that these are actually same regions of the brain that we use both for recalling the past and the future. But the brain in itself is really actually, it doesn't fully distinguish between vivid imagination and lived experience, because this is all down to chemistry, And with our imagination, we're also actually initiating and starting off this chemical cascade as well. And this is what happens in real life. And this is really key to manifestations as well. Us being able to embody the feeling of our future selves and really arise that elevated state chemically and live it in the present. And this is what is actually like pulling towards us, manifesting really sometimes in real time. So when we consciously visit our future selves, we are then performing neuroplastic time travel. And we are installing a memory of a life which did not happen yet, which we have not lived yet. So we are actually sending a vibrational instruction into the quantum field. So this is why goal setting without emotion and imagination rarely works. And this is why, for example, writing on a piece of paper, I want to be abundant, done on a paper, it does nothing for our body, but imagined, it's kind of arising this joyous chemistry in us. So if we revisit our inner child and bring them safety, and then feel the emotion of already living our future, and hold this emotion, this elevated emotion, long enough, then our field reorganizes, synchronicities begin to move, opportunities appear. And this spiral of time is going kind of upward and downward and forward and all directions, pressing on itself, like this infinity loop, but really quick. So let's talk a bit about the polychronic psyche. And this word polychronic is simply a technical term for cyclical time. So it's called polychronic time. So polychronic psyche and ritual as a time-bending tool. So cultures like Cairo or Hopi Nation, even the Aboriginal Australians, all of them, they're living in the polychronic time, in the cyclical time. So what does that mean? That means that multiple moments can coexist. Ancestors, present selves, future selves, they're kind of all dancing this one memory in the very present moment. So therapy and ritual and restore this natural feeling of the polychronic time within our psyches. A fire ceremony, for example, to release a childhood loop. Breathwork session, maybe to embody the future self. A guided visualization where we meet the inner child with our luminous elder self. And when we do this, we're no longer victims of time, of a clock, of linear time. And we become, in a way, architects of our timeline and time travelers, so to say. So let's close our eyes for a little bit, for 30 seconds, and let's imagine our inner child standing in front of us. And let's smile at our inner child now and place a hand on our heart. And let's whisper to our inner child, we are safe now. And we are free to create. Now let's let that inner child rest a little bit more in this beautiful palace that we created with our imagination. So we're going to talk a bit more about how do we walk this spiral of time. And also we're going to have a quantum field integration. So the spiral path, we have now remembered two truths. Time is not a spell. Time is a spell, actually, but it's not a linear, a line, a linear notion. So our psyche bends time through memory and imagination. So the next step is to walk this spiral consciously. So let's use our imagination a little bit more, just to demonstrate and to make a journey through time travel. So let's, through our every inhale, expand time outward into possibility. Just take some deep inhalations and exhalations. And with every exhale, let's allow that spiral to go inward into memory and root. So let's take a few conscious breaths. So on this spiral path, there is no rushing, there is no late, there is no fear of missing life. And every return to an old memory is like this new angle of wisdom. So every dream of the future is kind of pulling the present into alignment. So walking the spiral means that we are becoming this living ceremony and time travelers. So we can wake up in the morning and speak to our ancestors. We can sit with ourselves, with our breath, and feel our future selves holding our hand. We can walk into the world knowing that time is responding to our frequency and not our schedule. So how do we become this timeline weaver, a destiny tracker, a destiny embodiment? So when we stop living as a linear being, we're kind of really truly reclaiming our power of this time weave. And we're closing the loops of unresolved emotion. This exactly by meeting our inner child with compassion. So we can also pre-live our highest reality by embodying elevated emotion before it manifests. And then we also release the grip of fear-based time and step into choice-based time. So as a time weaver, we can then realize past trauma is only energy which is frozen in time. Future abundance is energy which is already here and it's kind of waiting permission to be felt. So then the ritual and the imagination and the conscious breath work, where these are the threads, the kind of sewing these points together and bringing them to wholeness within ourselves. So this is where quantum time travel can be seen both as mystical and practical. Well, why mystical? Because our heart can kind of touch 1,000 years in one moment. And why is it practical? Well, because emotion and intention are reshaping our neural networks and actually our electromagnetic field as well, which is then impacting our whole luminous energy field, our aura. So Trisha, I got a few more questions. When was the last time that you truly felt timeless? And please try to describe that memory. And what were you doing? And what kind of made this feeling of time dissolve?
I was sitting by creek. Um, after I had done a hike on one of my favorite hiking trails. There's a pour over on the creek, and I go there and I sit on the rocks anytime I go there just to do some meditation. And I was sitting there and it was like time froze. It got like real still, and I don't know how to explain it, but it was just the strangest feeling, and it was just like everything around me just dissolved, and
Mm.
it was like I was just in a whole different realm, and it lasted, felt like hours, but I'm sure it wasn't anywhere near that long. But it was just the most amazing feeling. Uh, so
Beautiful, beautiful. I can see the scenery for me, and I also can simply by imagination live myself into the scenery. And thank you for sharing. And one can see then that we are seeking connection to nature as well, to be able to dissolve the notion of time. And this can sometimes, at times, with a place for reflection and a little bit of solitude, inner kingdom, work. Well, time can easily dissolve. And how beautiful is that, really, truly? So, one more question, please. So, if your dream time and your waking time were to dance together, what would they create today?
I I don't dream a whole lot. It's just starting to happen again. I had a very traumatic experience back in 2005, and I somehow, because of PTSD and flashbacks and so forth, I somehow or other stopped myself from dreaming, and I'm just starting to be able to dream again.
Hmm.
Right now, I don't really have an active dream space.
Hmm.
It's
Okay.
to come back. So um, that question I really can't answer right now.
Hmm. Well, okay, you answered it, and it's okay. Even so, and I can tell you this because I also have with the dreams, I have periods where my dreams are very intense, even vivid. So, but also periods without me being able to remember my dreams. And I believe also that's what's happening for you at this period where you can't recall your dreams, but you are dreaming. You can trust me, you're dreaming lots during the nighttime. So your brain is very active there in the nighttime. So one more question, please. Are there any loops that you're ready to dissolve? Kind of like one or another repetitive pattern of emotion or thought or behavior that you kind of that you choose to dissolve and to step into this spiral and declare it. Do you have any?
Yeah, I'm working on the belief that everybody leaves loop.
Hmm.
That's been a loop that's been going on since very early childhood that I've just continued to perpetuate, and I've been working on trying to stop that.
Well, that's a big one and a super important one, and especially because it's connected to our inner child healing. And
Mhm.
you see how important it is to heal the inner child, to be able to perceive the cyclical time and to be able to time travel with our psyche.
Mhm.
So,
I'm just happy that I able to recognize that I've been perpetuating the loop myself. It's taken me a long time to actually see that I've been causing a lot of it myself because I've just gone into so much of it just expecting it to happen that I've just pretty much just a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Prophecy, yeah. And as you said, Trisha, I've used a lot of time. And you know, this is because our mind is perceiving time that it is kind of running out. But actually, this is your psyche, which in cyclical notions was revisiting your old wounding and through your present experience, finding a way to come to the surface and heal. And this feels for us like time. It takes a lot of time, which it does, you know, psychologically, but it just says to us that until we finish healing certain important childhood woundings, well, we will use a lot of time on that. So that's the reality. So we can then say that the quantum field is responding not to what we want, you know, but it's responding to who we are being, our frequency. And it's really loyal. The field is always reflecting correctly. So if our being kind of trapped in these notions of feeling that we are late or that we are stuck or that we are not ready, well, then the field is kind of mirroring back delays, limitations. But if our being is vibrating that it's timeless and it's safe to expand and that we already are abundant, that we have abundance embodied in our field, in kind of time it bends to our coherence. So walking this spiral of time is actually like the art of remembering that we are in the center of time. We are the axis of time. And if we imagine time as a river around this axis, then we can kind of become this solid rock, a stone that allows for new currents of time to arrange around it. So, Trisha, let's enter the last part of our session with a guided quantum field meditation. And it's also be a little bit of manifestation and integration of this wisdom from the first module. So let's close our eyes and connect to our heart space. Taking some deep inhalations to our nose and exhaling fully through our mouth. Now let's enter the spiral of time. Let's imagine a golden spiral opening at the base of our spine. And with every inhale, it spins upward through our heart and crown, and also into the field around us. And with every exhale, it draws in the energy of the cosmos and our ancestors. Now let's visit our inner child, which is still safely playing in the palace of our mind. And let's imagine seeing them standing in a safe, luminous space. And let's walk up to the child, to the inner child. Let's walk up to them. And let's kneel and then hold the child. Give it a hug. And whisper, "You are safe. You are free. And time is ours now." And as we embrace our inner child, the spiral of time widens. And you can feel warmth filling your chest. So as we allow this inner child of ours to integrate in our field, seen, healed, free, let's call on our future selves then. So let's imagine now that ahead of us, the spiral is lifting into this radiant vision of our highest future selves. And now let's look at the posture of our future selves, of their eyes, of their presence. And now let's walk toward them. Let's embrace them. And then let's allow their energy to download into our body now. The confidence, abundance, peace, and sovereignty. Now let's merge our past, present, and future selves in the field. Now let's imagine this golden spiral spinning in all directions now. Around us, through us, above, below. And then whisper to yourself, "I am whole. I am timeless. And I am abundance." Now let's radiate this feeling to the quantum field. And let's also call upon an elevated emotion of gratitude and joy to join us, to enter our field. And let it fill every cell until your skin tingles. And now with a deep inhalation, project this emotion of your past, present, and future selves merged into one to the quantum field. And imagine it's like a sun expanding from your heart. And let's stay here for several breaths. So slowly, on your own time, bring your awareness back to your room. And you can rub your hands together a little bit, touch your heart, and whisper to yourself, I am a time weaver, and time serves me. Time flows through me. I am the weaver of my destiny. And when you open your eyes, you can carry this state with you. Welcome.